The morning began with silence that felt too heavy. Amara pushed open the classroom door, her books held tightly to her chest, her braids falling forward as if trying to shield her from the world. But nothing could protect her from what she saw on her desk. There, in bold red ink, someone had written, "Go back to Africa." Beneath the cruel words was a childish sketch of a monkey with her name scribbled beside it. The entire classroom went still for a second, then laughter erupted. Whispering, mocking, giggling. Amara froze. Her chest tightened. Her throat burned. She wanted to disappear. One girl in the front row smirked. "Maybe she doesn't understand English. Should we translate it for her?" Another voice chimed in. "No, she understands. That's why she's pretending to be blind." The class roared again. Amara swallowed hard and quietly sat down, brushing her hand over the desk, trying to erase the hateful words with her palm. But the red ink stayed, staining her spirit. She bent her head low, pretending to open her book, but her hands trembled. At that moment, one pair of eyes watched silently. Professor Jihoon. He stood at the front, tall and composed, his sharp suit fitting him perfectly. His face was calm, but his dark eyes held a storm. Every girl in the school adored him. His smooth voice, his brilliant mind, and his youthful charm. He was the lecturer every student whispered about. But today, his gaze was not on them. It was on her, Amara, the only African girl in the entire international school. Poor, quiet, unnoticed by most teachers, but always at the top of her grades. Her intelligence was sharp, but she lived in shadows. She had no designer bag like the other girls, no expensive perfume, no family chauffeur waiting outside. She came to school in worn-out shoes, carrying second-hand books, yet she carried herself with quiet dignity. And Jihoon noticed. "Let's begin." Jihoon's voice broke the tension, firm yet gentle. The whispers died down, but the smirks remained. Throughout the lecture, his eyes drifted, again and again, toward her. He saw the way she kept her head low, the way her shoulders curled inward, the way she swallowed her pain in silence. Something stirred in him, something dangerous, something forbidden. When the bell rang, students rushed out like a flood. A group of girls lingered near the door, whispering loud enough for Amara to hear. "She's so pathetic. Why would she even come here? She doesn't belong. Maybe she thinks Professor likes her. What a joke." Their laughter sliced through her. Amara stayed behind, pretending to pack her bags slowly. She wanted them gone before she walked out. That's when Jihoon spoke softly. "Amara." Her head jerked up. "Yes, Professor?" Her voice cracked. He walked closer, lowering his tone so no one else would hear. "Don't listen to them. You have more strength than they'll ever understand." Her heart skipped. She wanted to believe him, but his words felt like a dream she wasn't allowed to dream. "I'm fine," she whispered quickly, forcing a smile. Jihoon studied her for a long moment. His jaw tightened. He wanted to say more, to shield her, but he knew the rules. He was a lecturer. She was his student. But deep inside, a dangerous seed had already been planted. That evening, when the school grew quiet, Amara slipped into the library. The smell of old books was her comfort. She sat by the window, trying to lose herself in her studies. But her mind replayed the cruel laughter, the red ink on her desk. Her eyes filled with tears. She bowed her head on the table, whispering to herself, "Why did I even come here? Why can't I just be invisible?" And then, a shadow fell across her table. She lifted her head, wiping her eyes quickly. Professor Jihoon stood there, his face unreadable, but his eyes, they burned with something she couldn't name. "You shouldn't cry alone," he said softly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. In that moment, the world outside seemed to fade. The racism, the whispers, the cruel laughter. For the first time since arriving at the school, she felt seen. Really seen. And that was the beginning of a story that would shake the entire school to its core. The next few days in school felt heavier than usual. Every hallway Amara walked through seemed to echo with whispers. Heads turned, eyes darted, mouths moved behind cupped hands. She's after him. She thinks she's special because Professor Jihoon looks her way. She's probably giving him something for grades. Amara clenched her books tighter against her chest each time she overheard the poison. She wanted to scream, "I've done nothing wrong." But she knew words would never save her. The attention from Professor Ji-hoon hadn't gone unnoticed. He didn't favor her in class, but the way his eyes sometimes softened when she answered, the way he paused as if weighing his words when speaking to her, it was enough to feed the school with rumors. One afternoon, Amara sat in the cafeteria, pushing a plain sandwich around her plate. She had barely taken 2 bites when 3 girls surrounded her table. One of them, Min-ji, the daughter of a wealthy businessman and the loudest admirer of Professor Ji-hoon, leaned forward with a cruel smile. "Enjoying your free lunch? Charity case?" Amara's throat tightened. She said nothing. Min-ji's friend snickered. "Don't act innocent. Everyone knows you've trapped him. Poor professor. Maybe he feels sorry for you. Or maybe..." She smirked. "You're giving him something to keep his attention." The table nearby burst into laughter. Someone whispered the word "gold digger." Before Amara could reply, one of the girls grabbed her sandwich and tossed it into the trash. The cafeteria erupted with giggles. Amara's eyes burned, but she refused to cry in front of them. Instead, she stood, collected her bag, and walked away with as much dignity as she could manage. But once outside, the tears came. She pressed her back against the cold wall, her chest heaving. That evening, she stayed late in the library again. The silence there was her only refuge. She buried her head in a book, though the words blurred before her eyes. A sudden shadow fell across the page. Amara! Her heart jumped. She looked up, and there he was again, Professor Ji-hoon. His presence was steady, commanding, yet gentle. "You haven't eaten all day," he said softly. She blinked, startled. How do you know?" His lips curved faintly. "I notice more than you think." Her cheeks flushed. She lowered her gaze, trying to hide the storm of emotions in her chest. "I'm fine, Professor." "No," he said firmly, his voice low but insistent. "You're not fine. They've been targeting you. I've seen it." Her throat tightened. She wanted to stay silent, but the weight of her loneliness broke her. "Why?" she whispered. "Why me? I've done nothing. I came here to learn, not to be hated." Ji-hoon's eyes softened, and for a moment, the mask of a professional lecturer slipped. "Because you're different, and people fear what they don't understand." Tears stung her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. "I don't belong here," she murmured. His next words made her freeze. "You belong more than anyone." Their eyes met. For the first time, she saw not just sympathy, but something deeper, something dangerous, something forbidden. A storm raged inside Ji-hoon. He knew the line he was about to cross. He was a lecturer. She was his student. But in her vulnerability, her quiet strength, her courage despite the cruelty, he saw beauty beyond measure. "I shouldn't say this," he whispered, his voice trembling ever so slightly. "But, Amara, I think I'm falling in love with you." Her breath caught. The words hung in the air like lightning before thunder. She shook her head slowly, her heart racing. No, Professor, you can't. If anyone finds out, I don't care." His tone was fierce now, desperate. "Do you know how many nights I lie awake, thinking of your face when you answer questions in class? Do you know how much it hurts to see you cry alone, when all I want is to protect you?" Her chest tightened painfully. She had dreamed of someone seeing her, choosing her, but she never imagined it would be him. The man every girl wanted, the man who seemed untouchable. "I can't," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "If they know, they'll destroy you. And me." Ji-hoon stepped closer, lowering his voice to a tender promise. "Then let the world destroy me. But don't tell me to stop feeling this way." Silence. The library was so still that even the ticking clock on the wall seemed to vanish. Amara's hands trembled on the desk. Her heart screamed to run, yet at the same time, it longed to stay. For the first time, she allowed herself to whisper the truth her heart had been hiding. "I feel it too." Ji-hoon's breath caught. His eyes closed as if in relief, as if those words had freed him from chains. At that moment, the bond between them was sealed. Not with a touch, not with a kiss, but with words so dangerous they could burn down both their worlds. Neither of them knew that outside, in the hallway, someone had seen them. Someone who would not keep their secret. The morning after Jihoon's confession, Amara walked into class with trembling hands. She had barely slept, her mind replaying his words over and over. "I think I'm falling in love with you." Those words both warmed her and terrified her. She knew the danger. If anyone found out, her life in the school and his career would be destroyed. But unknown to her, danger was already circling. The night before, when Jihoon stood too close to her in the library, when his voice dropped into a whisper that carried more than professional concern, someone had been watching. Minji, the rich girl who adored Jihoon more than anyone else. The same girl who had tormented Amara since the first day. Her jealousy burned like fire. She had taken pictures, blurry, but enough to spread suspicion. And she wasn't going to keep them to herself. By the next morning, whispers spread faster than wildfire. Students crowded around phones, snickering, gasping, sharing screenshots. Look, that's her. That's Amara with Professor Jihoon. They're alone in the library at night. She's smiling at him like, "Oh my God, they're definitely together." Amara stepped into the hallway and instantly felt the change. Dozens of eyes turned toward her. Whispers cut through the air like knives. She held her books tighter, her knees threatening to buckle. One boy sneered as she passed. "So it's true. The poor African girl seduced him." Another voice laughed. "Guess we know why she gets top grades. She doesn't need to study." A sharp pang stabbed her chest. Her vision blurred. When she entered the classroom, it was worse. The words "Professor's Pet" were written across the board. Students laughed, pointing at her desk. She stood frozen, wishing the floor would swallow her whole. Jihoon entered moments later, carrying his books. His sharp gaze swept across the mocking faces, then landed on Amara. His jaw tightened. "Erase that," he commanded, his voice like steel. No one moved. Then Minji slowly rose, feigning innocence. "But Professor, isn't it true? Everyone has seen the pictures." The room fell silent. Amara's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. Jihoon's eyes darkened. Pictures can lie. Gossip destroys lives. Do you want to be responsible for that? But Minji smirked. "We're not blind, Professor. She's been stealing your attention since the first day. Why not just admit it?" Gasps echoed around the room. All eyes darted between Jihoon and Amara. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then Jihoon did the unthinkable. He looked straight at Amara, his voice calm but firm. "If you want the truth, then hear it. I will not lie. I care about Amara." The room exploded. "What? No way. He admitted it?" Girls screamed, some in anger, some in shock. Boys whistled, clapping sarcastically. Phones flew out to record the chaos. Amara's breath caught. Her world spun. He had just confessed openly in front of everyone. "Professor!" Minji shrieked, her face twisted with rage. "How can you choose her? She's nothing. She's poor. She's not even." "Enough!" Jihoon's voice cracked through the noise like thunder. He glared at her, then at the entire class. "Don't you dare speak about her that way." The room went silent again, stunned by the fury in his tone. But the damage was already done. Within hours, the school administration summoned Jihoon. Rumors spread across the entire campus, even outside the school walls. Parents called. Teachers gossiped. That evening, Amara sat alone in her tiny apartment, her hands shaking as she held her phone. Message after message flooded her inbox. Some were cruel. "Gold digger. You'll ruin his life. Go back to your country." Others were mocking. "So this is your survival plan? Sleeping your way up?" Her tears fell freely. She buried her face in her hands, whispering, "Why me? Why won't they just leave me alone?" Then her phone buzzed. A message from Jihoon. "Meet me. Please, don't give up. I'll fight for us." Her heart twisted painfully. He was willing to risk everything. His career, his reputation, even his future, all for her. She whispered through her tears, "But can I survive this storm?" At that moment, she realized. This was no longer just whispers in hallways. It was war. And tomorrow, the entire school would see just how far they were both willing to go. The school was no longer the same. Everywhere Amara went, eyes followed her like shadows. Some glared with hatred. Some whispered insults under their breath. Others pointed, snickering, daring her to break down in front of them. Her textbooks were stolen. Her locker was spray-painted with the words "Homewrecker." At night, she received anonymous messages threatening her to leave the school, or worse. Amara tried to stay strong, but each day chipped away at her. One evening, she sat on the floor of her small room, her knees pulled to her chest, tears soaking her dress. "I should just leave," she whispered to herself. "If I go, maybe they'll stop. Maybe he'll be safe." But Ji-hoon had other plans. When the school board demanded his resignation, they expected him to quietly agree. Instead, he looked them straight in the eye and said, "If the cost of love is my career, then I'll pay it. But I will not deny her." Word spread like wildfire. Some students admired his courage. Others saw it as confirmation that Amara had ruined him. The final blow came during lunch in the cafeteria. Amara carried her tray of rice, trying to ignore the whispers. Suddenly, Minji stood up, blocking her path. "You think you've won, don't you?" Minji spat, her voice sharp enough to slice the silence. "You think he actually loves you? You're just a charity case. A poor little African girl clinging to the first man who gave you attention." Amara froze, her heart pounding. The entire cafeteria turned to watch. Minji sneered, "You'll never be enough for him. Not here, not anywhere." And with that, she slapped Amara hard across the face. Gasps filled the room. Phones flew up, recording the scene. Some students cheered. Others waited to see if Amara would crumble. But she didn't. Slowly, Amara lifted her chin, her cheek burning from the slap, her eyes brimming with tears, but not weakness, strength. Her voice trembled, but it carried across the room. "You can call me poor. You can call me different. You can call me every name you want. But you will never take away what is real. And what is real is love. Love doesn't know race. It doesn't know money. It doesn't bow to hate." The cafeteria fell silent. For once, the laughter died. For once, the whispers stopped. Then a firm hand reached for hers. Everyone turned. Professor Ji-hoon had entered the cafeteria, his expression stormy. He pulled Amara close, his hand clasping hers tightly. His voice thundered, filled with fire. "If loving her is a crime, then I am guilty, and I will never apologize." The silence was deafening. Every eye was on them, the forbidden couple who dared to stand against the world. Minji's face twisted with fury. She opened her mouth to speak, but Ji-hoon's glare silenced her. He turned back to Amara, his voice soft now, for her alone. "I don't care if they take everything from me. I don't care if I have to start over. You are worth more than all of this." Amara's tears spilled freely, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from the overwhelming truth. Someone had finally chosen her. Not in secret, not in shame, but openly, proudly, fearlessly. The students watched in stunned silence as Ji-hoon led her out of the cafeteria, hand in hand. Some whispered, some clapped softly, others simply stared. But one thing was clear, their love had shaken the school to its very core. That night, Amara sat with Ji-hoon on a quiet bench under the stars. For the first time, she felt at peace. "I thought I was cursed," she admitted softly, "that I would always be the outsider, the unwanted one." Ji-hoon turned to her, his eyes warm, his voice steady. "Then let me be your blessing. Let me be the one who proves them all wrong." She smiled through her tears, leaning into him. "Even if the world is against us?" He tightened his arm around her shoulders. "Then we'll stand against the world together." And under the silent stars, where no one could laugh or whisper or curse them, their love burned brighter than any hatred that had tried to destroy it. Because in the end, love was not about who had the power, who had the money, or who fit in. Love was about choosing each other even when the whole world said no. And Ji-hoon and Amara had made their choice. Together, against the world.
Hello, besties. In this powerful story, we learn that true love knows no race, class, or status. When two hearts choose each other, no amount of gossip, hate, or judgment can stop them. Courage, dignity, and self-respect are stronger than cruelty, and those who dare to love openly will always rise above the voices that try to tear them down. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, and share.